I am the greatest. I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass. You won't do shit. Just stick and move. Waking you up and saying, now stick and move. Keep your hands up.
Welcome to a new episode of the Stick and Move podcast. I'm your host, Trey, here with my co-host, Sam. And today we are discussing a controversial boxing legend figure in Rocky Marciano on our Overrated series. This will be part 3 or part 4. I don't remember. But look, before we get started, when one of our first episodes was most overrated boxers of all time. And I would say besides Roy Jones and Julio Cesar Chavez, Rocky Marciano, out of those two, was listed the most. And even to this day, when you and I talk about overrated heavyweights or any kind of overhyped boxers that we've talked about in the past, Rocky Marciano is always on there. So before we give our justification if he is or isn't overrated, tell me, why do you think people think he's overrated?
I think that the reason people are probably considering him overrated was because of the names at which time he fought these opponents. Mm-hmm. Because the criticism I've heard was, oh, Joe Louis was too old. Right. You know, Jersey Joe Walcott was too old. Ezra Charles was too old. So, you know, and they don't see big names or they're familiar with, you know, with the opponents he's had. But, you know, that's what I think.
I agree with you a little bit. I think the resume does not really appeal, especially now, to the newer boxer that maybe has just gotten into boxing within the past 5, 10, 15 years, or the new millennial generation. I think, and it's strange because, you know, Joe Louis is on there. Considered one of you and I had Marciano and Joe Louis in our top 3 greatest of all time, heavyweights of all time. And even that episode had a lot of heat saying that Marciano had no business being on that list. I think you had him on there. I did too. I took him out because I didn't want our list to be similar. But I don't know, man. I kind of think it's more of a new generational thing, because if you ask a lot of the old heads, maybe not that didn't really get to see him fight, but were raised and born in the 60s and 70s that have a good IQ about boxing, they justify Rocky Marciano being as an all-time great. So I don't know. I just think it's a little bit of a blend between the newer generation not understanding the generation of boxing then versus now. You have any thoughts on that?
Look, man, can we just go ahead and just get into it?
All right. So let's get into it.
Yeah, let's just get into it.
All right.
This is my thought is,
hey guys, Trey here. If you love today's controversial episode and you want to see our channel grow, please drop a like, subscribe, and also comment. Sam and I are always going back and forth with those commenters on our controversial topics and opinions, and we love it so much. So go ahead and hit that like button, hit that subscribe, most importantly, so our channel can grow and we can give you guys the best content as possible. Sam and I were always uploading multiple videos a week, and we want to continue doing that, and we need your help. So go ahead and subscribe, guys. And most importantly, like I always say, don't forget to stick and move, baby. Is he overrated or underrated?
Rated? He's not underrated, and he's not overrated.
Okay,
he is one of one of the greatest heavyweights we've ever had. I mean, he knocked out everybody that stood in front of him. That isn't his fault. That how old this guy was, dude. He was young. Rocky Marciano was a young dude, got into boxing, and he just started, knocking everybody, in front of him. Right. Joe Louis got him. He knocked out Joe Louis. Mm-hmm. I mean, he fought Ezra Charles twice. Right. He's knocked out Archie Moore. He knocked out Jersey Joe Walcott. I mean, dude, he was fighting legendary fighters that themselves were taking out everybody. You know what I'm saying? And his knockout percentage in heavyweight fights is 85%. You know, he's, I think, number 40 in the top 100 list of best punchers ever in history.
Right.
I 49-0, bro. He did stop boxing though. And he was contemplating to coming back and fighting this guy that had beat Floyd Patterson. I think his name was Enigma Johansson. And yeah, he was gonna fight him, but I don't know the situation after that. But I mean, he fought everybody in front of him.
That's actually been the main criticism, that he ducked Johansson. I've heard this many times, even before you and I started this podcast, that it was Johansson that the reason why he retired early. I don't know if that's the reason why he retired early. I doubt. Yeah, I mean, come on, guys. We got to stop putting boxers in a box, pun, where they're retiring or they're avoiding a certain fighter because of certain issues that go on. I think after his fight with Archie Moore, you know, he went down against Archie Moore, had to come back and came back against him. And, you know, I'll admit Archie Moore was already a seasoned all-time great boxer, one of the greatest of all time. But I think he was just done after that boxing fight. He was, you could arguably say, the first celebrity boxer of all time. I mean, there's footage of him hanging out with the mafia, hanging out with Frank Sinatra, and so on. And it's gotten to the point where I don't think he was ducking Johansson. I've even heard some people say that he was trying to avoid the rise of Sonny Liston, who at the time was a young boxer chopping heads at the time, that he wanted to get out before Liston was even a thing. So I could see your point of view. So you do have him as not overrated then.
Yeah,
right?
he's not overrated in my opinion. I mean, he fought everybody that stood in front of him. You know what I'm saying? And I mean, dude, I mean, he defended the heavyweight title 6 times. I mean, dude, he died young. I mean, he had his height, 5'10", you know, fighting these monsters, bro. And I mean, dude, there was other people that he fought in the list, you know, that were, you know, magnificent fighters, bro.
Right.
And I just think at the time, I mean, we can go and say the same thing about Jack Johnson, bro. You know what I'm saying? People are gonna criticize, you know, whoever it is. Even to today, people criticize boxers for not getting the fights that they want. But no, I don't think he's an overrated boxer. He, you know, with his height and his reach, he got, he got into the heavyweight boxing and he became champ, bro. And that's it.
Listen, another aspect that I people don't bring up, man, is his weight. He wasn't a true heavyweight, man. He was a hybrid between light heavyweight and cruiserweight, fighting guys like Joe Louis. If I'm not mistaken, when he fought Joe Louis weighed 213 pounds, and Rocky Marciano weighed 183, 184. I mean, you're talking about the heavyweights of light heavyweight going against the heavyweight boxer. When Ali fought against Joe Frazier, Ali weighed the second. I'm thinking in the Thriller Manila, if I'm not mistaken. Ali was 225. Joe Frazier was 213. I could be off by a couple of ounces there or pounds, but that was a big disparity. Imagine this guy, Rocky Marciano, average boxing height and weight, fighting on to different classes, different weight class. And this is the point I'm trying to make. Are we going to divide? Okay, fine. His boxers that he fought, the champions, Ezra Charles, Jersey Joe Walcott, Joe Louis, yes, they may have been older, right? But for the most part, they outweighed him. So where do we find a balance on that? What is more important, age or weight? Because for the most part, majority, I'm not saying all fights, but majority of the fights, Rocky Marciano was always underweight. And not to mention fighting with smaller gloves. They were fighting with 6 to 8 ounce gloves at the time, mostly 8-ounce gloves. So imagine getting hit by a tank like Joe Louis at what was it? at 213 with an 8-ounce glove, and he outweighs you by almost 30 pounds. So
That's ridiculous, man.
Where do we find the balance on this criticism that he was fighting older fighters versus always being outweighed? Talk to me.
Yeah, no, dude, his style was good enough to fight those guys that he had disadvantages to. You know, it was just obvious. I mean, these guys were twice his size. The dude was coming in at 188 pounds, man.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And if today, that would be super small going into the heavyweight division, especially fighting people like, you know, Joe Louis and Jersey Joe Walcott and Ezra Charles and all the other fighters that he fought.
Right.
I think he was one of the great heavyweights, and you know, especially for his stature. You know, a dream fight of mine would have been like him versus Joe Frazier. That would have been. That's just a. You know, I've always thought that, and they did talk about him and Ali like a fantasy fight back in the day, and but that's a different story for another day. But no, he is not overrated. I think he stands there amongst the greatest heavyweights that ever was.
You know, I'm looking at the fight weight disparity. He fought Ezra Charles. He was 187. Charles was 192. He fights Jersey Joe at 184 against 197.5. And we know the history on that fight. The first fight, you know, Jersey Joe was using his weight on him, and it was bringing Rocky Marciano down. As a matter of fact, for the most part, the judges had Walcott winning the fight until that vicious Susie Q punch that, to me, is probably the greatest knockout of all time.
Yeah.
That Susie Q punch, bro, in the 13th round, if I'm not mistaken, just obliterated. And it's so crazy because when he lands that left hook, you know, he does another tap on him, and you just saw Jersey Joe Walcott, just his soul and his body being flushed into the ring like a rag doll, brother.
Dude, a dead body, bro. Dead body, bro.
Done, bro.
Yeah.
Done. And, you know, it's stuff like that. When you look at great heavyweights or even in other classes, they all have mega moments like that.
Yeah.
You know, and that was his Susie Q punch. Of course, Jersey Joe Walcott, because he was winning that fight, would get the rematch right afterwards. And bro, Marciano took him out in that first round. It was done. Kind of reminiscent of Muhammad Ali and Sonny Liston. You know, we're seeing all these handoffs, right? Like a baton, like from my generation to yours, Walcott to Marciano, and now Sonny Liston to Muhammad Ali and such. We see that in boxing. We just did an episode, top 3 when legends, you know, get into that last fight that retires them. And for Marciano to retire a legend like Walcott, he even retired. I mean, it just goes to show you that, man, I just wish the YouTube generation, and I don't want to trash on them, but they need to go and dig a little bit deeper in the history archives and see the significance and the sacrifice that Marciano was putting himself into, always fighting these legendary champs at a weight disparity. And I think that is very, what's the word I'm looking for? Overlooked in Marciano's greatness. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I agree 100%. I mean, dude, what do you want him to do? The guy was fighting, you know, the current champions. I mean, the guy was fighting the people, you know, mandatories, if you want, you know, you know, like today. I mean, he was fighting, and then, bro, the rules, the rounds, everything is different compared to today. The small gloves, you know, they were going over 12 rounds. You know, the referee didn't step in like they do now. I mean, they were just brutal fights. And I mean, he didn't have a boxing style. He was just a brawler with a great chin, great stamina, and a lot of power.
Well, that's what it was, right?
Yeah.
What makes it even more impressive for me is that he started late in boxing. I think it was 24 or 25 years old. You know, so imagine if you would have had that amateur pedigree that most boxers do, and really take on, you know, the champs early on and maybe in his career. Maybe it could have looked a lot different. What do you think it would take for, I guess, the newer generation to appreciate Marciano a little bit more? Not to put
Um,
you on the spot, but
yeah. I think that if you know they want a bigger name opponent.
mhm, mhm,
You know what I'm saying? If he would have got into maybe got into the whole Sonny Liston fight.
mhm.
You know what I'm saying? That's my opinion. I mean, what else can you do? I mean, the time was the time at the time.
Yeah,
I mean, a younger Joe Louis, well, then, he would have been a kid.
right,
You know what
right.
I mean? So there's nothing you could do. You got to, appreciate what he's done and who he's beaten and
Mhm.
and the title defenses that, and understand that it was a different era of boxing.
Right.
That's all. Either you like it or you don't.
You know, it's interesting, bro, because when I look at Marciano's career, I've been watching a lot of his fights lately. And you're right, he did not have a style. But, bro, he was entertaining. I could see the appeal, not only just being undefeated, he was a legit 49-0. Uh, I just feel like to captivate the YouTube audience nowadays, to go back and look into the old archives of great boxers, especially at that time. Bro, he beat the guy who's on everybody's top 3, top 5, Joe Louis.
Yeah.
Yes, Joe Louis was older, but like I just said to you, Joe Louis was a monster, a behemoth of a boxer in weight and everything. And here comes this lightweight, cruiserweight size heavyweight boxer, just take him out, man. Take
Yeah.
him out easy
Yeah.
and take him out cold. And in other words, are we forgetting the past, man? To, I guess you can say, are we forgetting the past to, I guess, give them today's modern boxers more credit than they deserve? You know what I'm
I,
saying?
I think it's just underappreciated.
Hmm.
And I think it's not knowing the history. I mean, you got to understand. This ain't a first round knockout. He
Hmm.
went through wars, bro, with
Hmm.
legends, wars
Right, right.
beyond the 12th round.
Hmm.
He went through wars, and it's about appreciating the time and appreciating the circumstances of the rules and how it
Right,
was played back in the
right.
day. I mean, dude, the guys were killing each other. The small gloves and everything.
Let me ask you this. You know, when I hear the Floyd Mayweather fans say, "Oh, well, Floyd is 50-0, Marciano's 49-0," and they always do the comparison. They always say, "Well, the main difference between Floyd and Marciano is that only reason why Floyd is better, maybe one is the resume, whether you want to dispute that or not, is actually because Marciano hit the canvas like he did against Archie Moore."
Mm-hmm.
What do you say about justifying the better boxer based on how many times they went down and then came back to win, or so on?
I think that the reason people would I guess choose Floyd over Marciano is because Floyd did fight more champions.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? And he fought, better known names that, the people know now.
Right.
You know, but that is probably the only reason why. And of course, not even getting knocked down. I mean, people would celebrate when Floyd would just get touched.
I remember
I mean,
that.
the
Yeah.
crowd, the crowd would lose it if you get to
Mhm.
even tap him on the chin, bro.
Right, right.
So, I mean, oh man, I mean, Floyd just fought. He had a better resume, man.
So should that matter though that Marciano went down
No,
a couple of times?
yeah, no, it shouldn't. It's a different era. He was in the heavyweight division. Smaller gloves, more rounds. I think there were just more brutal fights, and maybe we should do an episode. Would Floyd be Floyd? In the 50s. You know what I
Hmm.
mean?
Hmm.
Or even the 60s. We don't know.
It's
Something we
it's
could talk about.
it's interesting because I bring that up because it's kind of like Marciano, if I'm not mistaken, only went down 3 times, and we have great historians on our podcast that can fact check that for me, and I would appreciate that. But I think he only went down 2 to 3 times. And if you think about it, if he was mostly always outweighed, wearing smaller gloves in the heavyweight division, only being knocked down less than a handful of times,
Wow.
bro, that's an achievement within itself. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I
Yeah.
think that to me is a cherry on top of why he should never be on a list of most overrated boxers of all time. I
Agree.
do, I can see because Jersey Joe Walcott, Erzo Charo, Lastarza, all these great fighters from the past. They're kind of being forgotten about. Archie Moore and Floyd Patterson. He didn't fight for Floyd Patterson, but Archie Moore and all these boxers at the time, that they are being forgotten, that they're not getting that credit anymore. When in reality, besides baseball, I've said this before on the podcast, besides baseball, boxing was the biggest sport in the world, especially in America. When Babe Ruth brought baseball around, it was boxing number one, and then baseball,
Yeah.
then boxing. It wasn't until the NFL, merged their leagues, and then basketball coming around in the 80s. It was just baseball and boxing that had a monopoly on all sports. And you can honestly say Marciano carried the torch for his time in the ring to making boxing a great sport that it is today. I think that within itself should get a lot of credit. You have any thoughts? Go ahead.
Yes, and I agree. And he became the new face of boxing at that
Was.
era. You know what I'm saying? The other guys were getting older, and here comes this newcomer, man, from Massachusetts.
Right.
An Italian guy, yes, tied with the mob and all that, whatever they say. But I mean, dude, the guy was he was their modern day, well, like Mike Tyson is now, right? Well, when
Right.
Mike Tyson was killing everybody, that was the same thing. That was their Mike Tyson. And there's no denying, bro. People can criticize Mike Tyson,
Right.
but he
We
fought and he
have.
knocked.
You and I have
Yeah,
criticized.
we have, and
Yeah.
he fought, and whether you like it or not, he fought, and the people that were in front of him.
Let me ask you
So
this. And we'll end it here. Whose career was more impressive in the sense of, because we just spent the last 20 something minutes talking about how Marciano fought the guys in front of him, right? Was his resume better, Marciano's resume better than Mike Tyson's in the 80s? Not in the 90s, in the 80s.
in the 80s,
Who had the better
dude,
resume?
why did you
Marciano
put me
or
this spot?
Tyson?
Oh,
Not to put you on the spot, but I love putting you on the spot.
Trevor Biggs and when was the Spinks fight? The Michael Spinks fight?
That was in the 80s.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then I would have to give it to Mike Tyson.
Okay.
I would have
All
to
right.
give it to Mike Tyson.
By the way,
the way he was blowing them out, bro, blowing
Yeah.
these dudes out. I mean, he didn't need it. He didn't need 13 rounds, bro. He didn't need the big old marshmallow gloves to knock people out, dude. Let's not even go there, bro. Mike Tyson cut. The way his quickness, his power, his footwork.
Well, that's not the question. The question is who had
better
the better
resume. I'll give it to
in
Mike Tyson.
80s Tyson versus 50s Marciano.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Man, I wanted to bring one thing up real quickly. Is it crazy for me to say that Marciano, and I want to hear this in the comments, call me an idiot, it's fine. Considering always being at a weight disadvantage for the most part, fighting with smaller gloves, 15 rounds, that he is one of the pound for pound greatest then?
Yes, he is. Yes, yes.
Okay. All right. All right. All right. We'll leave it there. I'm pretty sure we're gonna get a million comments telling me why I'm dumb, but that's okay. I love that actually. So go. You have any words for our commenters out there?
Yeah, hey, to let everybody know that we appreciate all the likes, the comments, and share the channel. And if there's any topic that y'all want us to cover, we'll have an episode on it. Thank you, and I appreciate it.
Absolutely. We'll leave it at that. If you get a message from me, it's from the Stick and Move podcast. You get a message from Sam, it's from Stick and Move Sam. Just go ahead, guys. Leave a comment. We always respond. And like I always say, don't forget to stick and move, baby.
I am the greatest. I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass. You won't do shit with me now. Just stick and move. And waking you up and saying, now stick and move.